This is the Viofo A139 Pro dash camera, and it comes in 3 different configurations. You can get it in a single channel configuration, which would just be the main unit here. It has a 4K camera on the front. You can also get this in a 2-channel configuration, which includes the 4K front camera plus a 1080p rear camera. Or you can get what I've got here, which is the 3-channel version of it that has the 4K front, 1080p back, and a 1080p interior camera as well. Now, I really like this style of dash camera because it is low profile. This is my favorite overall body design for dash cameras because it mounts very flush, it's fairly discreet, it's not a giant big thing that's hanging down from your windshield like a lot of other dash cam designs are. It does not have a screen, and I've always said in all my dash camera videos that you do not need a screen on a dash camera because you're going to only use it once when you align the camera and probably never need it again. And so people always ask me, they were like, well, if it doesn't have a screen, how do I line it up? How do I know if it's aiming the right way? Well, you use the app and you use your phone, and the screen on your phone is the screen for the dash camera. You use it once, you set it up, never need it again. So I'm happy that this one does not have a screen. And what it does have, however, is a polarizing filter. This is the only dash camera that I think I've ever tested that actually comes standard with a polarizing filter. I love polarizing filters. I think they are required for dash cameras, especially if you're primarily doing daytime driving, because they eliminate, probably 80 to 90% of the glare that you get on the windshield. And the windshield can really get very glary on bright sunny days. So having a polarizing filter is critical, and this one comes with one. You can remove it if you want. I always leave mine on there. Also, we have on the side here a micro SD card slot. It supports up to 256 gigabytes. On this side here, we do have a USB-C power port. And we have a couple other things that are unique that I've never seen before. Well, first, I should mention that it has these 2 jacks here. These are for the rear camera and the interior camera, so you can plug them in here. But what's unique here are these. So it has, first of all, an external mic input. So if for some reason you're not happy with the built-in mic here, you can plug your own microphone in. Also, it has, and this one is a bit of a head scratcher for me, it has an AV out. This is for video out. So say you want to watch the video on your TV set. It's not an HDMI out, it's an analog out, and you will need to purchase a 3.5 millimeter mini to RCA plug adapter. The problem, though, is that I have not seen a single television made probably in the last 8 or 10 years that has RCA jacks on it. Pretty much everything now is digital, HDMI or other. So if you want to do this AV out for some reason, you're going to need to find a fairly old TV set for it to work. Another thing on here that I don't know what it's for is this. It's a brass screw hole, and there's another one over here by the SD card. The instruction manual just simply labels these as screw holes. But I have absolutely no idea what they're for. I can't imagine what you would ever need to screw into either of these, but they are there. On the front face of the dash camera, we have all of the usual buttons. We've got a power button, a record on and off button, toggle microphone button, and a toggle Wi-Fi button. And most importantly of all, in the middle here is what I like to call the incident button. This is the button that you press if something happens, like say you see a tornado just suddenly take a whole herd of cattle and fling them into the air, and you go, ooh, that's cool. I want to permanently save that to my storage and make sure it doesn't get overwritten. Because remember, the way dash cameras work is once the memory card fills up, it will start to overwrite the oldest files. But if you see something totally awesome, you press the incident button and it will tag those video clips as do not erase. There is also another optional accessory that you can get related to the incident button, and that is this. This is a Bluetooth remote incident button. You may be in a position where this dash camera is simply mounted too far away for you to be able to reach the incident button. It may just be too far away. And so you can buy one of these, and this will pair to the camera, and you can just stick this anywhere you want. And if you see something cool happen, you just press this little button and it behaves the same way as pressing the incident button on the camera itself. So the way that you mount this camera to your windscreen is, well, it's the same way that pretty much every Chinese dash camera works these days. It comes with a couple of these. These are little electrostatic sheets. And the idea here is that you peel off the protective film on both sides, and then by electrostatic forces alone, this thing will stick to the glass. There's no adhesives involved. And so what happens is you then have a sticky pad on the back of the dash camera, and that will stick directly to the plastic. That way you do not have to stick the dash camera right on the glass. Now you can just stick this straight up there. The problem is it's very difficult to get off later. So by using one of these little sheets, if you ever need to remove the dash camera, you can just peel this off quite easily. The other nice thing about the way that this thing works is that there's actually a removable back plate. So the way this actually connects once you've got it up there is by this extra piece of plastic. It's the piece of plastic that is stuck to your windshield or to this electrostatic plate, and then the dash camera clicks into that. So if you ever want to remove the dash camera, you just slide it to the right and off it comes. Really convenient so that you can take it with you, and then you just put it back on and it slides like that. Now, because I have the 3-channel version here, there is a rat's nest of wires that go into this. I do not have this permanently and cleanly installed in my car. I have it kind of temporarily installed for testing, but nevertheless, there are a lot of wires. We've got the power and the 2 remote cameras that go into this. So it'll take some work to get this thing installed properly. I mentioned before that this thing is powered by a USB-C plug on the dash camera. And the dash camera only comes with a USB-C cable and one of these. It's just the standard 12-volt cigarette adapter to a USB. This is okay, but if you do this, you're going to be missing out on a lot of features of the dash camera, and that's mainly dealing with parking mode. I'm going to talk more about parking mode later, but suffice to say that you have to buy the Hardwire Kit if you want this dash camera to really work to its fullest. It will sense when your car is turned on and turned off, and it will tell the dash camera to automatically go into parking mode and when to come out of parking mode when you start the car back up. So that's what you want to do. You want to permanently hardwire install this with that kit and not what comes with it. The other benefit of the Hardwire Kit is that it also has some special low voltage protection circuitry in it. What this does is it makes sure that the dash camera does not drain your battery. So if your battery starts to get low, it will automatically cut power to the dash camera. Okay, so now let's get to the important part, the video footage. First of all, I need to remind everyone that what you are seeing is not the original quality video that the dash cam recorded. By the time this video file makes it from the camera to your eyes on YouTube, it has been recompressed numerous times. So it has been heavily degraded. The original video files straight off the camera look much, much better than what you are seeing here. Also, it's worth noting that the A139 Pro can record video at different resolutions, different frame rates, and different bit rates. There's a whole lot of configuration that I'm going to show you later. But for this review, I've left everything at the default settings. So what you are seeing here is the full 4K high-res video. It was recorded at 3840 by 2160 resolution. Now the only problem with this resolution on this camera is that it is limited to 24 frames per second on all 3 cameras. And I would normally never set my dash cam to record at only 24 frames per second because I think that is an inadequate frame rate for dash cam videos. To get the higher frame rate, you do have to drop down in resolution on the main camera, and the drop is significant. So to record at 30 frames per second on all 3 cameras, you have to set the front main camera to only record at 1600p. That's quite a bit lower resolution than the full 4K of 2160. Now the instruction manual, it actually claims that the A139 will do 60 frames per second if you drop down to 2K 1440 resolution. But I looked for that, And there's no such option that exists in the camera settings. It'll let me drop down to 2K 1440, but only at 30 frames per second. So this is either a feature that'll be added in future firmware, or it's just a misprint in the user manual. You can also set the bitrate of the recorded videos, and I have left it set on the normal setting, which records on the main camera at 23 megabits per second. Now, if you don't mind burning through your SD card a lot quicker, then you can increase that in the settings and get even better video quality. But honestly, I think the default setting looks good enough. There's a little bit of video compression artifacting, but like I say, you're seeing way more compression artifacting than was on the original video, because YouTube's compression mangles it. Aside from all the technical mumbo jumbo, the video quality on the 4K front camera is extremely good. My only complaint would be that it's just a little bit underexposed in most of the shots. Or it may actually just be that they're using a weird gamma curve, because it looks like the sky is properly exposed and a lot of the midtones look properly exposed, but a lot of the darker areas look a bit crushed to me. So it may just be a gamma issue, but either way, that's really my only complaint about the video on this. Otherwise, I think it looks really, really good. Like I said before, the rear camera is 1080p and it has a very, very nice wide-angle lens. The video quality here is also very good. It's probably the best rear camera video I've seen on any dash camera. And at the default bitrate, it's recording at 12 megabits per second, which is entirely sufficient for a rear camera. It's actually really quite good. Once again, though, even with this camera, the dark areas do seem a little bit crushed, so it has the same exposure or gamma curve issue that the front camera has. The interior camera also has a very nice wide-angle lens, so it gets the entire interior of my large Jeep Grand Cherokee, and it also handles the lower light levels inside the car quite nicely. Surprisingly, at the default setting, these files are also recorded at 12 megabits per second, which is probably overkill for the interior camera. Even 1080p is probably overkill, so I can say that this is by far the best quality interior video that I've seen on any dash camera I've tested. The camera performs well at night too, but remember that I do have the polarizing filter on, which isn't great for night footage. So there would probably be a bit less noise in the video if I wasn't using that. But overall, I'd say that this is pretty typical, good quality nighttime dash cam footage. The rear camera is actually better than most other cameras, in these nighttime shots. I think the high bitrate helps a lot with the noise, and it gives the rear camera an overall better quality video image than what I've seen in most other dash cameras. The interior camera is also quite nice at night. There are infrared emitters on the interior camera, and these little emitters will automatically turn on at night, so it switches to this black and white night vision mode, and the quality is excellent. There is, of course, a Viofo mobile app for your iPhone or your Android, and you use this to connect to the dash camera to do all the important setup stuff and to look at files and download files and stuff like that. Now, this app gets terrible reviews on the App Store, but every dash camera app gets terrible reviews on the App Store. And I don't know why, because most of them are pretty good. I've only really encountered a few bad apps before, but I like the Viofo app. It generally works quite well for me. The only issue I have, and let's see what happens here today. When I try to connect to it, okay, the first thing that happens, you say connect camera. Tells you to power on. You got to connect to the Wi-Fi network. It will not automatically do that like some other dash cameras do. I'm going to go into Wi-Fi, and quite often the Viofo simply does not show up, like it's not showing up here. This is, oh, there we go. It finally did show. Now, sometimes it doesn't show up, and I have to back out and go back in before it will show up. Here's the... Okay, it says Wi-Fi connected, so we know that we're connected now. Okay, now we go back to the app, connect camera. Now we are in. One thing I want to point out right away is that this is the first dash camera I have ever tested that has a 5G Wi-Fi connection, and it is awesome. It is so much better. It is easily 4 or maybe even 5 times faster at doing things, especially downloading files, than any dash camera that I have ever tested. I'm going to show you more of this in just a second. But anyway, it starts up with this live view, and in our case, we're seeing all 3 cameras. So we've got the rear camera, the front camera. You can see me here. and of course the interior camera, right? So you hit the switch camera button to toggle through the different cameras if that's what you want to do. And one little annoying thing is that if you want to go to the settings, it says please stop recording before doing other operations. This drives me nuts. I don't know why it does not automatically stop recording. Every other dash camera app just automatically does that. Manually turn it off. And by the way, the dash camera will continuously beep to warn you that it is not recording. That's when it's just sitting here. So let's go into settings, show you that first. Okay, first things first. Here are the resolutions and frame rates that this supports. And like I said before, you can go down to 2K 1440, but it's only going to do 30 frames per second, even though the instruction manual says there should be an option here for 60 frames per second. I would love that option. Matter of fact, if that option ever appeared, 2K 1440, 60 frames per second on the front camera with 30 frames on the other cameras, that is absolutely the mode I would choose. Anyway, okay, what else do we have? So we have all these other settings. I'm not going to go into every single one of them. Let me see. Here's some of the important stuff. The bit rate, like I say, I've got it set to normal. That's what I've been doing all the testing with, but you can set it much higher to get much higher quality video recordings, but it will use up a considerable amount of additional space on the SD card. Okay. You can also do time-lapse recording. You can sync the time to your phone so you don't have to manually set the time on the dash camera. For the interior camera, like I say, there are LED emitters up here, and you can just have it automatically come on at night, so it'll switch into night mode, or you can manually set it, to do how you want that to work. Parking mode. So let's talk about parking mode for a moment here. Okay, there are a bunch of options. You can turn parking mode off, you can set it to auto event detection, or you can do time-lapse mode where it just records a time-lapse. You can also do low bit rate recording. What that is that it basically in parking mode just continues recording like normal, but it'll be a very, very low quality recording. I do not recommend this mode at all. Would never use it. I would use either the time-lapse mode or auto event detection, which is what I've been using. Now, I've had a little bit of a problem with the auto event detection. I have, and you can see here, it says parking G sensor, high sensitivity. That means, it'll be very sensitive to any motion. If the car shakes or something bumps into it, it should be very sensitive. And it also has parking motion detection. I have it set to high. Motion detection is that the camera is just looking for people or anything moving in front of the camera, and it'll trigger the recording if it sees something. I had a really difficult time getting this to work. So as far as the impact detection goes, or what they're calling the G-Sense, parking G-Sensor, I tried shaking the car when the camera was in parking mode, and it just would not set it off. I could not get it to trigger. The only way I got it to trigger, I couldn't even tap this. Normally tapping the dash camera will trigger that kind of a thing, but not with this one. I had to physically remove it and give it a shake, and that was the only thing that would trigger the event recording in parking mode. Additionally, I could not get it to trigger when people or cars were walking in front of the car when it was in parking mode. I tried, walking in front and waving my arms and doing all sorts of things, and not once while I was testing this camera did it ever record a person or car driving by while I was parked. I don't know why not. I know that it will work because the one time that it does work is when I open my garage door. The garage door opening, at least the rear camera sees that, and that will trigger parking mode to record. So there's something going on there. I wouldn't worry too much about it. This is a new camera. I'm sure that will be addressed in a firmware update. But for my little test model here, that was really the only major issue that I ran into was that. So anyway, moving on with the various settings, you can configure all the little voice notifications. She says a lot of things, to warn you about what's going on, like when the Wi-Fi is connected and when there's incidences and things like that. You can also configure the GPS stamp. So like I said, this dashcam does have GPS. It will log your coordinates and your speed if you don't want that. Like I always say, having the speed marked on your recording is what we call evidence. So you may not want that. And also a feature that I'm always happy when dashcams have this, which is camera model setup. You can turn that on and off. That is the little logo that appears on all the recordings. Some dash cameras do not let you get rid of that, and you have to look at their giant logo stamped onto every frame of all your footage, and I hate that. So I'm glad that Viofo is smart enough to let you turn that off to remove that. Very nice. The one thing that this does not have, and it's something that annoys the heck out of me, is that there is no way to update the firmware from the app. Almost every dash camera these days, I'm going to say, I can't even, well, no, there's probably a couple other that I've tested that don't do it these days, but almost all of them allow you to do firmware updates from the app. This one does not, so if there's a firmware update, for starters, you're not going to even know because the app won't tell you. But if you go to their website and you see an update, you're going to have to manually update it by copying the update onto the SD card. And it's just, I don't know why they still don't have the ability to do that in the app. Kind of annoying. All right, let's drop out here. Whoops, let's go back to the main page. Now, say we want to look at our recorded footage. Okay, we go in here, and here, let's just, oh, here, let me show you some parking files. There are almost none, because it just never triggers, okay? Locked files, these would be the ones if I pressed the incident button. I had some at one point, but I guess I erased them. All right, let's go find some footage, because I want to show you what I really like about this. Let's find, come on, camera. There we go. All right, these are night footage, but that's good enough. If I select it, it will start playing this 1 minute long clip. Now, if I want to download this, I press the download button, and check this out. Look at how fast that is. That is insane for a dash camera. Every single other dash camera I have ever tested downloads in either real time or less. So say you have a 1 minute clip. With every other dash camera I have ever tested, it takes at least a minute to download the 1 minute file. This took what, 10 seconds, if even? The 5G Wi-Fi connection is awesome. This is probably my favorite upgrade of this camera compared to any other camera I've tested. It's just that finally I don't have to wait forever to download these files. I can get them just almost immediately. And I have not had any problem downloading them either. You know, sometimes other dash cameras, they get a little glitchy, you download and there's failures and things like that, but I've never had any issue with this. I'm extremely, extremely happy with how this app works in that regard. So, in conclusion, the Viofo A139 dash camera is an excellent dash camera that I can absolutely recommend. Matter of fact, I would recommend getting the 2-channel version unless you're an Uber driver, because that's really the only reason you would need the interior camera, you know, is if you're either a commercial driver or an Uber driver where you want to record your passengers. It's a fantastic camera, and honestly, if I was looking for a new dash cam right now, this would be towards the top of my list. The only issue that I have with it is that the parking mode is not detecting the events properly, right? You know, like I said a minute ago, motion detection and the collision detection do not seem to be triggering properly, but I'm very confident that this is just a firmware issue. Every time I review a dash camera, it's always on one of these early models, and 2 out of 3 times there's something that doesn't work properly that gets fixed in a firmware update really quickly. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Other than that, fantastic dash camera. I love the 5G connection. I love the design. Love the fact that it comes with a polarizing filter. It's all around a great camera. Now you can get the A129 Pro single channel version for about $230. The 2-channel version, the one that I would recommend, is about $300. And if you want to get the full 3-channel version, it's about, I believe, $370. So it gets a little bit pricey up there. Now, in my previous Jeep, you may have seen that I did a review of an earlier model of Viofo, the Viofo T130. I had that for about a year or so in my old Jeep, and it was flawless. Absolutely loved that one. It was also a 3-channel dash camera, but it had a slightly different design where the interior camera was built into the body. So that's another one that you may want to check out, because you can get the full 3-channel version of that for only $240. So it's a lot less expensive than this, but it's also not 4K. It's only a 2K dash camera. But I would highly recommend both of them, either the T130 or the A139 Pro. Both fantastic dash cameras. So, I hope this was useful. I hope it was informative. And if you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them below. And thank you for watching.